Hey folks, it's Stephan here with another Pathfinder adventure card game, Wrath of the Righteous episode. This week we are starting Adventure 2, Sword of Valor. The shattering of the wardstone kindled something deep within you. Your destiny, it would seem, is to become a mythic adventurer. Perhaps your epic courage will be strong enough to hold back the raging armies of the abyss. The Knights of Canabras are marshalling for this cause, and all who are willing shall be drawn inside their ranks. The city of Dresden is the next metropolis that must be retaken from the hordes. Certainly no army can do this alone. You will make the difference. And the scenario is the Gibbering Swarm. In the wake of Canabras's destruction, Queen Galfrey has rallied an army, but demonic vermin are ravaging the land. Those who triumph against this blight could earn positions of command. Right now, you don't have time to think about that. You hear a low buzzing sound. It will soon get much louder. Cohorts this time are Aaron Kerr, Queen Galfrey, and Social Vanek. The villain is the Vescavor Queen, and the henchmen are Vescavor Swarms. During this scenario, when you build location decks, set aside a non-villain, non-henchman monster before you shuffle the villain and henchman into those decks. Then shuffle the monsters you set aside and put the normal number of monsters on top of each location deck. So I have done that, and that means we're going to be going through monsters as the first encounters in all the decks. The Servitor Demon for Adventure 2 is the Blood Demon, and he is right here. He's a demon, servitor, outsider. Check to defeat combat 17. The Blood Demon is immune to the electricity and poison traits. Before you act, succeed at an arcane or divine 9 check, or you may not play spells that have the attack trait. During this encounter, if you would reveal, recharge, or discard a weapon that has the melee trait in a check against the Blood Demon, bury it instead. Now, of course, they all have gained a mythic card. So we have the Mythic Archmage for Enora. Add your number of mythic charges to your intelligence or charisma check. Then you may expend one or more charges. If you do, ignore Bane's immunities on this check, and when you assemble your dice, for each charge expended, replace one of your highest non-D20 dice with a D20. Expend 5 mythic charges to examine all the cards in a location, character, or blessing deck. You may shuffle that deck. And of course, everyone starts with 2 mythic charges, so we'll get those out. Imrijka has Mythic Champion. Add your number of mythic charges to your strength or dexterity check. Then you may expend 1 or more charges. If you do, ignore the effects that increase the difficulty of that check. And when you assemble your dice, for each charge expended, replace one of your highest non-D20 dice with a D20. Expend 5 mythic charges to ignore the powers on a non-villain monster you encounter. If the monster is a henchman from the location deck and is defeated, you may attempt to close the location. And Seelah is the Mythic Marshal. Add your number of mythic charges to your strength or charisma check. Then you may expend 1 or more charges. If you do, after you assemble your dice, for each charge expended, replace one of your highest non-D20 dice with a D20. And if you succeed at the check, choose another character at your location to get a charge. When a character at your location encounters a card, you may give 5 of your mythic charges to other characters at your location. You choose how to distribute them. The locations for this scenario are Abyssal Rift. At this location, begin the scenario with a side up. Blessings played by characters at this location add D4 instead of the normal die. At the end of your turn, flip this card. So this one just keeps flipping back and forth. The other locations are standard locations. There's the Dark Forest. The wilderness leads valiant souls astray from the laws and morals of civilization. Paths twist into darker realms, and light fades when travelers stray from straight and narrow ways. At this location, when you explore, examine the top 2 cards, shuffle 1 card into the deck, and encounter the other. The Molten Pool. Magma, roiling lava, searing steam. This pool has a nearly infinite number of ways to incinerate you, and all of them are exquisitely painful. Perhaps demons are the least of your worries. At this location, when any character at this location would be dealt combat damage, that character is dealt fire damage instead. At the start of your turn, you are dealt 1 fire damage. Canyon. On the battlefields, the Sanctified and the Damned maneuver for position. Marching into a canyon might seem like a useful tactic for defenders besieged by demons, but heroes don't always march back out. At this location, when you encounter a non-henchman, non-villain monster, each other character at this location encounters that monster. So we'll probably just send 1 person there. And finally, the Wounded Lands. The weak cannot always follow where the virtuous travel. West of Mendev, the Wounded Lands hold the center of abyssal corruption in this world. Poisonous fumes choke the skies, and a bubbling primordial coagulation roils in the realm's dark heart. Don't rely too much on your friends and allies to help you here. They have to breathe the same air that you breathe, at least as long as they're still breathing. At this location, when you encounter a Bane, you may not play allies on your checks. Enora has the cohort Queen Galfrey. Banish this card to examine the top 5 cards of the location deck. You automatically acquire any boons you find. Banish this card to allow a dead character to shuffle 10 of his buried cards at random into his deck and draw a new hand. That character is no longer dead. Imrijka has Social Vanic. Reveal this card and recharge a card that has the Divine trait to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to any Divine or Perception check by a character at your location. Bury this card and choose a character at your location to shuffle 1d4 plus 1 random cards from their discard pile into their deck. Seelah has Aaron Kier. Recharge this card to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to your strength, melee, or disabled check by a character at your location. Then if you don't have a roll card, bury any cards that have the liquid trait. Bury this card to evade a barrier you encounter. If you do this on your turn, you may immediately explore your location. Enora is going to start off at the Molten Pool. Imrijka will go to the Wounded Lands. And Seelah will go to the Canyon. And the cohorts get added as another card to their hand size, so all these come down into their hand. And Enora will start things off. She encounters a Cave Viper, Combat 8. All damage dealt by a Cave Viper is poison damage. Before you act, the Cave Viper deals 1 poison damage to you. And this says, any character would be dealt combat damage. That character is dealt fire damage instead. Okay, so this doesn't affect that. It's not combat damage, so he is going to do 1 poison damage to us. We can recharge the Scale of Resistance to reduce all damage dealt to you by 1. And if the check to defeat has the Cold trait, add 1d8. And we have Frigid Blast, which does have the Cold trait. So for our combat check, discard this card to use your Arcane or Divine skill plus 2d4, and then we get to add another d8 on top of that. So that's a d12, a d8, and 2d4 plus 2. So that's a d12, a d8, and 2d4 plus 2. And clearly we got that. So he is defeated. Cave Viper, and nothing happens after that, so he just goes away. Let's see, how many monsters should there be? There should be 2 monsters. So the next monster would be right here on top. So yeah, let's go ahead. We don't want to use that one, though. And actually, we can't explore again with Baphomet. The top card of the Blessings discard pile has the Corrupted trait. Discard this card to explore your location. We can't do that, and we'd like to keep Abraxas since that is for Arcane or Divine. So no help there. I think we'll just stay there. That's at 6 cards. We'll pass play to Imrijka. At the Wounded Lands, when you encounter a Bane, you may not play allies on your checks. She has a single ally, so I don't think that's a problem. Okay, Ghost. Combat 12 or Wisdom Divine 8. Ghost is immune to mental and poison. If the check to defeat does not have the magic trait, the Ghost is undefeated. And as has been pointed out, I keep forgetting to use this, you may recharge or reveal a card that has the Divine or Ranged trait to add 1d4 and the Divine and Magic traits to your check against the monster. So I can reveal the hand crossbow, and now I get that 1d4 and Divine and Magic traits, which gives us magic. I'm also going to use a hand crossbow and use its ability that says, for your combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or range skill plus 1d6. If proficient with weapons, you may additionally recharge another weapon that has the range trait and add 1d8. So we're going to recharge our composite bow. So now would be rolling a d10, a d8, and a d4 plus 2 to get a Ghost. But of course now we have the Mythic trait, and this is Mythic charges to your strength or dexterity. I forgot this with Enora, but that's okay. So now we're going to add another 2, so that would be plus 4. So I think that's pretty good for getting a 12. So a d10, a d6, and a d8, and a d4. Plus 4. So that's 19, and we do defeat the Ghost. We have the magic trait, so he goes away. This is Imrijka, so she can roll a d6 to see if she can explore again. And she gets a 5, so she can. And how many monsters are here? 2, so there will definitely be a monster here. And it is a Ghoul. Combat 9. The Ghoul is immune to mental and poison. If undefeated, end your turn. Well, I think we can do a very similar thing here. We're going to recharge one of the hand crossbows. So that's a d10, a d8, and a d6 plus 2. And then we're going to use our ability for the Mythic Champion. Add your number of Mythic charges to your strength or dexterity check. And so that's going to be another 2. So that's plus 4. So a d10, a d8, a d6 plus 4. And that gives us a total of 13, which is enough to defeat the Ghoul. So he goes away. And she can now roll another d6 to see if she can explore again. And gets a 3. We didn't increase that power, so does not get to explore again. and can reset her hand up to 5 cards. Pass play to Seelah. Seelah is in the canyon. When you encounter a non-henchman, non-villain monster, each other character at this location encounters that monster. That won't be a problem, because we're here by ourselves. A gargoyle, combat 14. If you evade the gargoyle, put it on top of its location deck. If the check to defeat does not have the magic trait, the difficulty is increased by 4. Do we have the ability to give it a magic trait? I don't think we do, because we only have a longsword right now. No, sadly we don't have the ability to give it a magic trait. Oh, this Frigid Blast. Let me just back up for a second and do this. It would have been a d12 plus 2 to recharge that. Oh no, I guess plus 4 now because of the mythic. Okay, d12 plus 4. And we only get a 1, so that would be 5, and that would not be. Then she would have actually drawn another card. Okay, back to Seelah and her check. Well, she has the longsword, that's not going to help. So he's going to go up by 4, that would be a 14. It's pretty tough. But we do have the Blessing of Shax, which will give us 2 dice to any strength or combat check. And we have the longsword. So for your combat check, reveal this card to use your strength and melee skill plus 1d8. We're not going to use the discard ability on it. So that's going to be 2d8 plus 5 as a base because we have 2 mythic charges. And then we're going to use the Blessing of Shax to get 2 more. Discard this card to add 2 dice to any combat, strength, or melee check. After you play this card, if the top card of the Blessing's discard pile has the corrupted trait, discard a card. I don't think it does. It's a Blessing of Pulora. So now that would be 48 plus, actually, that's 4 there, so it would be plus 6. 48 plus 6 to get an 18. Couple of low rolls there. It's a 7, figured out. Okay, plus 6 is 22, so we do defeat the gargoyle. She does have a Blessing of Discari, which she could use to explore again. I don't think she will at the moment, though. Alright, so she still has monsters to deal with in her deck. So she's down to 5 cards. She will pass play back to Enora. Over to Enora. She doesn't really have any offensive spells right now. She's got Brilliance, and she's got Create Pit. Create Pit's not super, especially since it's only 12 or lower. She is going to use Brilliance, which is going to force Missile to recharge, Frigid Blast to recharge. And then she will try to recharge this, which requires an Arcane 8, so that would be a d12 plus 4. She gets an 8, so it's a total of 12, so she does recharge Brilliance. And she's going to dump Create Pit at the end of her turn, and then draw back up to 6 cards. So there's Fiery Glare and a Blessing. And that's the end of her turn. Sends play to Imrijka, and she encounters a barrier, Baleful Shadows, Wisdom Divine Stealth 11. If undefeated, a character at location summons and encounters the henchman White. This one is kind of a pain. Wisdom Divine Stealth 11. Recharge this card to add 1 to your combat check or 2 to your non-combat Charisma, Diplomacy, or Stealth. She doesn't actually have a Stealth, so then that would be a Dexterity, right? Or no, it'd be a D4. Reveal this card and recharge a card that has the Divine trait to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to any Divine or Perception check by a character at your location. Well, she does have the Cure card, so she could do that. So then that would be a d8 and a d6 plus 1... Oh, plus another 2 for that. So a d8 and a d6 plus 2, 3, to get an 11. And Enora could give us a Blessing of Baphomet. So, yes, I think we can do this. Reveal this card and recharge a card that has the Divine trait to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to any Divine or Perception check by a character or location. So we're going to recharge Cure. So now we would be rolling a d6 and a d8 plus 1 to defeat Baleful Shadows. And Nora's going to give us a Blessing of Baphomet. This is our first exploration of the turn, so we get 2 dice. So now that would be 3d8 and a d6 plus 1. And a couple 2s there, but plus 1 is 15, so we defeat Baleful Shadows, which is good, because I think that's a pretty tough one. She does not have a way to explore again, so she will reset her hand. And pass play to Seelah, who still has monsters to deal with at the canyon. She encounters Incubus, Outsider Demon, Combat 15. The Incubus is immune to electricity and poison. If you succeed an Intelligence or Knowledge 11 check, or if your check has the Force trait, add 5 to your checks to defeat Incubus. Before you act, another character at your location summons and encounters this adventure's servitor demon. Well, we're here by ourselves, so that doesn't happen. If undefeated, banish an ally that does not have the animal trait. So he's a 15. If we were able to succeed at a knowledge or 11, intelligence or knowledge 11 check, or we had the force trait, we would add to this, but we don't have a way to do that. We can use Aaron Kerr though, and we could use the Blessing of Jaskari. We have the longsword. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your strength and melee skill plus 1d8. So we're going to be starting with 2d8 plus 4. And then we're going to add our 2 mythic charges, so that's plus 6. And then we're going to recharge Aaron Kerr to add the 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. We don't have a roll card, but we don't have any cards that have the liquid trait, so that's not a problem. So that is now plus 8. So 2d8 and a d6 plus 8. So we're starting at an 11 to get a 15. I feel pretty good with that. 2d8 and a d6. 13 plus 8 is 21. So we do defeat the Incubus. She could explore again with the Blessing of Jaskari. And it doesn't have we don't have a corrupted trait on the Blessing, so that might be a fine thing to do. So I guess we will. We know she has one more monster here. And it's a Cambion, Outsider Demon Elite, Combat 12. He's immune to electricity and poison traits. Before you act, succeed in an Arcane or Divine 9 check, where you may not play spells that have the attack trait. If undefeated, bury an ally that lists Diplomacy in its check to acquire. Well, we're not going to be playing a spell, so I'm not worried about making that Divine check. But we're going to use our longsword. We've got, so 2d8 plus 6 because of our mythic charges. And we will use her ability. You may discard the top card of your deck to add 1d6 to any check by a character at your location. Okay, well, unfortunately that was the flaming heavy pick, but 2d8 plus a d6 plus 6. And lovely low rolls there. We get a 7 plus 6 is 13, and we needed 12. So we do make it, and we defeat Cambion. That's going to be the end of her turn. She'll reset to 5 cards. Play goes to Enora. We have Mongol Wizard. Combat, Sea Blow. The difficulty of the check to defeat is equal to the highest difficulty to defeat a random monster from the box. Okay, so let's find out what do we get. Random monster. And, of course, it's a Mongol Ranger. That doesn't work. And Constrictor Snake, so he would be an 11. Before you act, he deals 1 acid damage to you. And she is at this location that says combat damage turns into fire damage, but this is acid damage, so it doesn't happen. And oh, we don't have anything that we really want to get rid of, do we? They're all blessings. I guess it'll be the Blessing of Ascension that we ditch. Okay, so he's an 11. Well, our only choice here is Fiery Glare. For your combat check, discard this card to use your Arcane or Divine skill plus 2d4. So that would be a d12 plus 2. And then plus our 2 mythics. A d12 and 2d4 plus 4. And we got that. So he will be defeated. He's going to deal another damage to us on the way out. First, we're going to try to recharge Fiery Glare, though. Arcane or Divine 10. So it's going to be a d12 plus 4 to recharge now. And we get an 8, so we do recharge that. And I don't think there was a spell in our discard. Let's see. Oh, there was, so we would have gotten that back too. But we're now going to take 1 more damage, which I guess will take on the Blessing of Jaskari. That will end her turn. She will redraw back up to 6 cards. And play goes to Imrijka. And she finds Corrupted Crusaders. Check to defeat none. Before you act, draw a random ally from the box and display it next to the scenario. Okay, random ally is Raconteur. It's like mini-me. Okay. Each character at your location summons and encounters the henchman Corrupted Soldier. The barrier is defeated or undefeated based solely on your encounter. If any Corrupted Soldiers were not defeated, banish the ally. Otherwise, add it to your hand. Okay, so now we have to dig through the 106 cards in the henchman deck to find the Corrupted Soldier. There's only 1 of them, too, so... Oh, they changed this menu. Okay, Corrupted Soldier. Check to defeat Combat 9 or Charisma Diplomacy 6. The difficulty of checks to defeat the Corrupted Soldier is increased by twice the scenario's adventure deck number. So actually he's going to go up by 4. If undefeated, he does not deal normal damage. Instead, he deals combat damage equal to 2 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. Okay, so it's either a Combat 13 or a Charisma Diplomacy 10. Okay, so for her combat check, she will use the hand crossbow. She's going to recharge the Corrosive Dagger plus 1, giving her a d10 and a d8 and a d6 plus 2, then plus 2 mythic charges, so plus 4. A d10, a d8, and a d6 plus 4. For a total of 17, so we do defeat the Corrupted Soldier, and that means the Raconteur comes into our hand, and this goes away. She did defeat a monster on her turn, even though it was part of that. I think that probably counts, so she can roll a d6. And she gets a 4, so she would get to explore again. And finds a longsword. Strength melee 6. That's going to be a d10 plus 1 for her. And gets a 5, so that is a total of 6. She gets the longsword. We'll discard the Raconteur to explore again. And we find a Wand of Sacred Weapon. Wisdom Divine 10. For your combat check, bury this card to summon and play a random non-basic weapon from the box. For this summoned card, your melee and range skills are each 1d8 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. Pretty tough to get, though. We have a Wisdom Divine of d8 plus 1. If you play this, you may succeed at Divine 8. I mean, this would be really good for a caster in the Divine, but not as good for melee and ranged characters. And it's still neat, I think. Divine 10, though. I mean, I can only do it by someone spending a blessing, and even then it's not guaranteed. I think we're just going to let it go. Okay, that's her at 5 cards. She will pass play, and she explores and finds a Telekinesis Trap. Check to defeat Arcane Divine 14 or disable 11. If undefeated, you are dealt 3 combat damage. Display this card next to its location deck. While this card is displayed, characters at this location cannot move, be moved, or explore. While this card is displayed at the end of your turn, Telekinesis Trap deals 1d4 plus 1 acid damage to you. At the end of your move step, succeed at a Strength, Dexterity, Acrobatics 11 to banish this card. So we really want to beat this on the first time. Disable 11, we don't have Disable. Or Arcane Divine 14, I guess is the best we've got. That's a d8 plus 1 as a base. This is our first exploration, though, so we can use the Blessing of Baphomet to get 2 dice for that. So that would be 3d8 plus 1 to get an 11. We're going to discard the top card of our deck to add another d6. Okay, 3d8 and a d6 plus 1. And that's a total of 19, so we do beat the Telekinesis Trap. And that's going to be it for her turn, so she resets her hand. Passes play to Enora. She does have 1 spell, Force Missile. Explores and finds a Cold Iron Mace plus 1, Strength Melee 8. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your Strength and Melee skill plus 1d8 plus 1. You may additionally recharge this card to add another 1d4. If the Bane has the Demon or Fey trait, add another 1d4. I think this would be a good thing for Seelah, if we could acquire this. So, Enora has a Strength of d6. And unfortunately, she's the only one with a blessing. So she could spend her Blessing of Abraxas. I guess if we want to hope to get this, we have to spend the Blessing of Abraxas. And that's still only 2d6 to get a d8, to get an 8. We have to get good rolls here. There's a 6, and a 4, a 10. So we do acquire the Cold Iron Mace plus 1. That will be a nice addition for Seelah. That leaves her at 6 cards at the moment, so she will pass play. I'm not going to use Chuffy Licked Wound for exploration right now. Pass play over to Imrijka. And she's getting quite down in her deck, so going to be coming across a henchman or villain pretty soon. But right now it's a Frilled Lizard. Wisdom Survival 7. Discard this card to add 2d4 to your check against the Bane that has the Veteran trait, or to explore. Wisdom Survival 7. We have a d8, and really nothing else to help, I don't think. Alright, that's just a d8 to get a 7. Probably won't happen. Nope. Except it does, and we get an 8. Well, we're going to acquire him, and we're going to use him immediately to explore again. And it is Death of Righteousness. Check to defeat Wisdom 12 or Knowledge 10. Each character at your location encounters this barrier. If a character does not defeat this barrier, he discards a number of cards from their deck equal to their hand size. May not play these cards or use powers against this barrier until the end of this turn after you banish this barrier. So this is bad news. Knowledge would be a d8 plus 2. I mean, we would just barely make it. Recharge this card to add 1 to your non-combat check. Okay, so we can get a 1 out of this. No blessings on the table, so this is the best thing we can do. Recharge this to get an extra 1. So it would be a d8 plus 3. Well, it looks like a d8 plus 3 to get a 10. We need a 7 or better. And we only get a 6, so we get a 9. Which says, if a character does not defeat this barrier, they discard a number of cards from their deck equal to their hand size, and may not play cards or use powers against this barrier until the end of the turn, after you banish this barrier. Bummer. So 5 cards off the top of the deck here. That's painful. Although, it does get us closer to cure, so we can bring some of those back. And I guess we're just going to reset. That was a tough turn for her. This does go away at least. It doesn't just sit here. Pretty bad barrier. Okay, over to Seelah. Still at the canyon. And she encounters a Temptation of Lucre. Check to defeat none. Draw 3 items from the box. If the scenario's adventure deck number is 3 or higher, draw 3 non-basic items. You may choose one and add it to your hand. Banish any not chosen. If you added one to your hand, the barrier is undefeated. Each character discards a card from their deck, otherwise the barrier is defeated. Chances are we're not going to do this, unless we get something truly amazing. Not that. Nor that. No. So we will defeat that barrier by not choosing anything. Does not have a way to explore again, so she passes play over to Enora. Now we're getting close to halfway through the deck here, and we haven't made a ton of progress yet. So she will explore, and she encounters a Sin Seeker. Check to defeat none. The Sin Seeker may not be evaded. Display this barrier next to your character card. While displayed, treat characters at your location as if they do not have the stealth or diplomacy. Allies cannot be acquired. At the start of your turn, succeed at a combat check equal to 9 plus twice the scenario's adventure deck number to banish the Sin Seeker. Well, that's just annoying. Okay, it could be worse though. So we cannot acquire things, and we don't have stealth or diplomacy, which we don't have anyway. She could explore again with Chuffy Lickwound, or we could banish Queen Galfrey. To examine the top 5 cards of your location deck, you may automatically acquire any boons you find, and there are 6 cards, and they should pretty much all be boons. So let's do that. We're going to banish Queen Galfrey. Top 5 cards? Well, that's not one of them. Oh, my. Okay, another barrier, of course. So we examine those. I assume that we would shuffle that. You automatically acquire any boons you encounter. Actually, it doesn't say anything about putting them back in order, so it doesn't say to shuffle them, although I would think you would. But anyway, we get the Corroded Helm, the Blessing of Abraxas, and the Limerian Discourses. So I'm sure those are all interesting things to have. And so the Vescavor Swarm is on top. Well, I didn't find anything obvious, and it doesn't say to shuffle it. And usually they do say to shuffle it. So if anyone knows otherwise, please let me know. But I'm going to play it that it doesn't change. And so I'm going to use Chuffy Lickwound to explore again. And that is going to be the Vescavor Swarm, Combat 11. It is immune to poison. If the check to defeat has the attack trait, add 1d8, which of course we will have the attack trait because we're going to be using Force Missile. If you play a weapon during this encounter, banish it, we will not. If defeated by at least 4, plus the scenario's adventure deck number, you may immediately attempt to close the location. So we have to beat it by 6, actually. So we have to get a 17 or better. We're going to use we're going to use a d12 plus a d8 plus 2d4. Plus a total of 4 from the mythic charges. And I'm going to use the Blessing of Abraxas, which gives me 2 dice to any arcane check. So now it's 3d12, a d8, and 2d4 plus 4. And that is a total of 32. So we defeat the Vescavor Swarm by more than enough. And you are dealt an amount of fire damage equal to 1 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. So that would be a total of 3 fire damage to us. If this card has a corrupted trait, bury a random card from your discard pile. You may not play this card. Recharge this card to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 2. You may play another armorless check. Wow, that doesn't help. Okay, so I guess we're just going to take 3 damage. So there's your 3 damage. We're going to see if we can recharge this. So that's 2d4, no, just a d12 plus 4 to get a 6. Almost cannot fail that. And this location is now closed. There's no effect when permanently closed. And what's this say? At the start of your turn, you're dealt 1 fire damage. What? Say that on here too? Oh gosh, I wasn't noticing that. At the start of your turn, you're dealt 1 fire damage. But it's too late now. So we're going to recharge up to 6 cards. Passing play to Imrijka. Wounded Lands, still here. 2 cards left. She has a weapon. She has Blessing of Shax. It's in good shape. And it's a Vescavor Swarm. It's immune to poison. If the check to defeat has the attack trait, add 1d8. It will not. If you play a weapon during this encounter, banish it, that's annoying. So we're just going to straight up lose a weapon, huh? Well, we could lose the longsword without that being a problem. We'll probably use the longsword. Defeated by at least 4 plus the scenario's adventure deck number, you may immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from. So again, that would be a 6, so it's good. We could get a 17 or better. So that'd be a d8 and a d10 plus 1, well, plus 3 actually. But the Blessing of Shax will discard this card to add 2 dice to any combat, strength, or dexterity check. So that would now be 3d10 and a d8 We might as well discard it to get the d6, because it's going to get banished anyway. Plus a total of 3. Alright, 3d10, a d8, and a d6, plus 3, for a total of 25. So we do defeat that, and this gets banished. Vescavor Swarm goes away, and succeed at a Wisdom or Survival 8 check. Well, we have a d8 for Wisdom. So right now, we're just rolling a d8 to get an 8. Enora's going to give us a Abraxas, so it'll be 2d8 to get an 8. There's a 6 and a 7, a 13, so we do make it. On closing, bury a boon. We're gonna bury. We'll bury our weapon there. She resets her hand up to 5. Hopefully, she picks up a weapon in doing that, and not looking good. Nope, didn't get a weapon. Well, we'll have to choose what to do with her the next time around. It might use Social Vanek here. She's gonna pass play over to Seelah, but still, that's 2 closed locations now. Seelah's still at the canyon. Still quite a few cards to get through. But she finds Gossamer Shrouds. Constitution Fortitude 7. Well, she has a d8 plus 1. If you are the only character at your location, before you act, you may discard this card to evade a non-villain monster. Banish this card to reduce all damage dealt to you to 0. That's pretty good for Imrijka. She's actually proficient with light armors. It's worth trying for. It's a d8 plus 1. There's a blessing on the table, but we're not going to use it. Let's see what we get. 7 plus 1 is 8. And so we do acquire the Gossamer Shrouds. She does not have a way to explore again, though, so she is going to drop that.